Good evening, everyone. Thank you for turning into the Citywide Tax Reevaluation Virtual Town Hall meeting. My name is Cynthia McElroy. I am the manager over Newark People's Assembly. Today we have Mayor Baraka here as guests. With some guests, we have Frank. We have Frank from the Tax Assessor's
Yes.
office in the city of Newark, and also um, we have the appraisal system who's going to come out to the houses. So today, the purpose of this webinar is to make sure that the residents are fully aware of the process, making sure we properly understand. With that being said, I will turn it over to Mayor Baraka to open up.
Thank you, Cynthia. And just want to first thank the tax assessor here with us, Frank DeLessio, the team as well that'll be doing some of these assessments. Well, all the assessments around the city of Newark. First, just a few things because this is the era of misinformation, and there's already been a myriad of misinformation, which is why we needed to start off first and then begin to go to the wards. There's already people putting things in the chat that's just not true. First of all, uh, revaluation tax, revaluation or assessment revaluation is not originated or begins with the city. This is state law that all of us have to do reval over a period of years. I believe 10 years or so, we have to do a revaluation. The city is due their turn to reevaluate the property, and it's just not residential property. It is all property. It's commercial property, industrial property, and hopefully, what this does is provides a balance so that people are paying what they're supposed to pay in terms of what their assessments are. Does not necessarily mean your individual taxes will go up. In fact, some people's taxes may stay the same, and some people's may go in another direction. But what this hopefully does is balances us out, and those folks who are probably being assessed at a higher value are paying the value that they're being assessed at. There's tremendous land in the city of Newark, particularly around the port area, industrial land that is a lot more, that is valued at a lot more than it was a few years ago. Obviously, commercial property as well. And so balancing that out is important. Uh, by state law, we have to go through this process. We've put it off long enough. In fact, the city was recently kind of penalized because there were properties that were being valued at a higher rate, and we weren't taxing you at the rate that your property was being valued at. And I think what this will give us an opportunity to do is get the right information to you, so you can understand how this process works, why it is important for you to engage in it, but for us to do this, and who is coming to your house actually to evaluate your property or assess your property, for those who own property, you know, and who's and also the commercial properties there. I see some commercial business owners on here as well, and I'm sure that you are very concerned as well. And I see a couple of people on here who have a few lots down in the port area, so uh, down in the Ironbound. So I think that this will give us the information that we need. And I want to tell you that this is not the only time we're going to have this discussion. It's just the first time we're going to have this discussion. And we're going to go around to the wards, and I'll let Cynthia talk a little bit about the schedule and what that looks like. And so stay tuned. So if you don't get everything you need here, please come to your neighborhood when we come to your neighborhood to discuss what this is, how it affects you directly. Come to those meetings as well, and invite your friends and neighbors. We have a nice number of people on this virtual town hall, which I thought was going to happen, which is good. It was about 120 of you on here, and the number keeps growing. So um, I wouldn't have anticipated that in person, and so that's why the virtual town hall is good, because people can get on from wherever they are. So I'll step aside and allow these guys to jump right in. But Cynthia, you want to start by explaining the process of how these meetings are going to go and how we're going to operate this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Baraka. So yes, so we're having this virtual town hall meeting. Then after that, we will go into each ward and have in-person town hall meetings. We're gonna meet as much as we can to make sure everyone is fully aware of the process. We're gonna start in the South Ward, which is next month. Is gonna be the first in-person meeting. Then the next we'll move to the East Ward, and after that we'll move to another ward. We want people to fully understand that the evaluations will start happening the next day after the first South Ward Town Hall meeting. And then once we complete the evaluation for every home in the ward, we'll move over to the next one. So we'll keep everyone posted. Everything will be very transparent. It'll be open and posted on the City of Newark, as well as the appraisal system team that's here, as well as we will be doing daily updates at Newark People's Assembly, whether it's on the email blast or we'll make sure that the City of Newark, whether it's YouTube or is it Facebook or Instagram, we'll make sure we're fully aware. With that being said, I will turn it over to Frank DeLacio. Do you have something to say?
Yes, it's important that every resident, every property owner lets the assessor, excuse me, the inspectors in. It's good for you, good for the city. We need to have a fully transparent process here. And it's just important for you to let the inspectors in. Let them do their work, and we will take it from there.
Thank you, Frank. And I'm just gonna add that also
Sir, the one thing for
Okay,
Frank
I'm
that I
sorry.
think you need to answer for folks.
Okay.
How will they know that this person is is somebody that's investigating their property, assessing their property, not some strange dude off the street knocking on their door?
Okay, they be wearing badges that have an ID on them with their name, their height, their weight, what kind of vehicle they're driving. If they have any problems, they can either call, we'll have a letter also on the person. They can call the office here, or they can call ASI, Appraisal Systems, or they can call the police. But they will be wearing IDs.
Okay, and just to mention that the meetings are gonna be open to every language, so we'll make sure everyone is fully aware of it. So we will have that. With that being said, I'll turn it over to the ASI company and you guys could jump in and explain the process.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen to put up the presentation, and Rick will start talking.
Okay, great. What we're going to be looking at tonight. Well, firstly, my name is Rick Del Guercio, and I'm the president and owner of Appraisal Systems. We are the revaluation firm that was selected by the city to perform this assignment. And I'm going to be introducing my staff, who will be speaking to a PowerPoint presentation that we are going to run through as we speak. There'll be a time period after the presentation to ask questions, and we'll stay here as long as we have to so that all questions are answered. You might find that some of your questions are answered by sitting back and listening to the presentation on the slides. Before we start the presentation, though, and before I introduce my staff, I just want to reiterate a few points that the mayor made on his introduction. Firstly, this project was indeed ordered by the Essex County Board of Taxation. They are empowered by the State Division of Taxation to order revaluations, and the order was set forth several years ago. The City of Newark is complying with that order. They selected the firm to do this based on a RFP that was submitted, request for proposals. And fortunately for my firm, we were selected. We have a long history of doing revaluations in Essex County as well as the city of Newark. So we're familiar with the market, not only in the city, but the county as well. And I thank the mayor and council for selecting us to take on this very important task of reassessing all properties within the city. The last time a full revaluation was done was in 2013. The values were set as of October 1st, 2012. In this case, we're going to be putting these assessments on for the 2027 tax year, setting the values as of October 1st, 2026. So that's 14 years. The mayor is correct. Typically, these revaluations get ordered every 5 to 10 years. The city of Newark made it 14 years, but it's time. It's time, and we know it's time because in looking at all of the sales data that has occurred over the last year or two and weighing that against those assessments that were set some 14 years ago, we're well below 50%, meaning the assessments represent roughly less than half of what the properties are worth. When that happens, red flags are raised, and that precipitates the county board from doing what they did, which is order the city to reevaluate all properties so that they are more representative of their fair market value. We are appraisers at Appraisal Systems, and we have two jobs, equally important. The first job is to put a fair market value on each and every property, residential, commercial, industrial, apartments, vacant lands, large and small, etc. And our second goal, equal to that, is to do so in a fair, uniform, and equitable manner, valuing all properties, large and small, commercial and residential, by the same standard of value, so that we can give our assurance at the end of this job that everyone will be paying their fair share. We know property taxes are high. They're high not just in the city, but in every municipality in the state of New Jersey. I believe New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the nation. If not the highest, we're certainly in the top 3. And that's something that we have no control over as Appraisal Systems appraisers. But we do have control over making sure that if you are paying a lot in taxes, that you are paying no more than your fair share. One of the other things that the mayor had mentioned, which is absolutely correct, is that a revaluation does not increase taxes by itself. Taxes increase when budgets go up. Budgets go up every year, whether you're doing a revaluation or not. A revaluation simply redistributes the tax burden. It is a zero-sum game, meaning for every dollar that's increased to a taxpayer, somewhere else there's a dollar that decreases. So it's a redistribution. If you want to envision it as a pie and everybody who pays taxes has a slice in that pie, the circumference of the pie will not increase when we were done, but the individual slices of that pie, some may go up, some may go down, some may stay the same. A redistribution. Taxes are then raised after the budgets are done the following year. Do budgets go up? Yes, they do. Do they go up? Do sometimes they stay level? Sometimes they do. We can't tell right now what's going to happen as a result of budgets increasing or decreasing or staying the same. All we have control over as appraisers is to make sure that we put a fair market value on each and every property. So having said that, tonight we're going to present a slideshow which will run through each step in the revaluation process from start to finish. We're getting ready to start this job, and the mayor, and I agree, thought it was important that we have these types of meetings before we start so that we can outreach as much good information as possible. The mayor also touched on the potential for misinformation. Please, if you have any questions, you'll get all of the websites, phone numbers, contact information. We're here to answer your questions, answer your phone calls throughout this process to make sure that you have the correct information. I'm sure there are a lot of social media posts that like to answer questions, but please go right to the source. The source is us, and ask us the questions, and we'll give you the correct answers. So having said that, I'm going to introduce tonight Greg Bacino and Mike Copland. They are the project managers and field supervisors who are going to be hands-on with the field inspectors. I also have Darren Raymond, who's a MAI. He's an appraiser who's going to be working in detail with the commercial properties and commercial valuations. And without further ado, I think I'm going to turn it over to my staff, and we'll start the slideshow now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. We were going through a couple already, and just going to touch on this one. Basically, the first two slides covered what you said, and this is speaking to several things that you brought up, that the last revaluation was in 2013. Excuse me, the average ratio reflects what you were saying about the current values being more than half of current market. The coefficient of deviation shows that from that average, there are a wide variation above and below that average, which is another indicator that made the county board decide to order the revaluation. And then just in general, there are other things that can affect it, changes in the neighborhoods and the municipality, the economics. There could be inflation, recession, particular fads in architecture, area of the town, so on. And then if there's changing in zoning and so on. So one of the big questions is how, as we started to address, is how will this affect us? So we're saying that the values are, we'll say ballpark half of what the current market is. So what does that mean if, rather when the revaluation is done, if the values double? So if we look at this, the current value as of right now is at 185,000. Current tax rate is 55.84. And if you multiply that out, the current taxes would be $10,033. So in this example, where we have to make the assumption that the budget is stable, we know that it's not, but for the math to explain itself well. So this is with an assumption that the budget is not changing. So if the value goes up double to 370,000 when this process is done, there has to be an inflationary adjustment down to the tax rate proportional to the inflationary adjustment up in the property values. So if the values go up by double, the property tax comes down in half. And if your value is exactly the average of the city, your taxes would remain exactly the same. And then if your value, if you look a little further down at the 400,000, if you're above the average, your taxes would go up some. If you're below the average, your taxes would go down some. And then the second example is showing the same math, saying that if the values go up even wildly more, the same math applies. If in this case, we're saying that the values go up 3.4 times, in this, the new assessment would be 629,000. The tax rate drops down to 1642, and the math comes out basically the same. And the same thing, if you're a little bit higher than the average, your taxes would be a bit more. If your new assessment is a little bit lower, it would be a little bit less.
Can I just interrupt? I just want to expand on something there, Greg. Can you go back one slide?
One to here?
One more.
Yep.
So I just want to everyone to look at that statistic, the coefficient of deviation, 28.78. That's a statistic that measures the uniformity of all sales over the past year or two, sampling period. And that's very important because we talk about the ratio. We talk about how your 44.94% average ratio is the average of assessments as compared to their selling prices. But more importantly is how far off of that average ratio, do the sales fall? Meaning, if you have 10 sales, that have 5 have a 130 percent average ratio, and the others have a 70% average ratio, your average might look good at 100%, but half your sales are 30% too low, and half your sales are 30% too high. And that's a big problem because you're paying taxes based on those assessments. So essentially what that's saying is that half of the people are paying too much and half of the people are paying too little. So in the ideal world, you want that coefficient of deviation to be as close to zero as possible. Because when it's as close to zero as possible, that means that from property to property, based on what the market values are in a given year, everyone's pretty much uniformly paying the same amount of taxes. When you look at a coefficient of deviation that I'm looking at here of 28.78, that's not good. That's another red flag that is raised, because what that's saying is that there are sales that are falling either side of the common ratio almost 30% off. And so you see that manifest itself in taxpayers will see that manifest itself where, they see their neighbors in similar homes that are paying 10, 20% more in taxes than they are, or vice versa. And that's a problem because it's not fair. Everybody should be paying for what they have. Through no fault of anyone that it got to this point, other than what we've seen since the assessments were last set in 2012 to date is wild swings in the market. We've had major events that have taken place that have affected that. We've had a global pandemic. We've had, economic, inflationary swings, unlike what we've seen in the last 2 decades. And so naturally, when you utilize assessments that are 14 years old, you're going to start eroding that uniformity. So it is time to do this. And now going to the next slide, Greg, what he's explaining is a circumstance where if a town is at a 50% ratio and all the values double equally, the tax rate gets cut in half, and everyone's taxes are exactly the same next year as they were the year before. We know that's not going to happen because of that coefficient of deviation. We know that there are a lot of people that are not paying their fair share or underassessed, and we know there's a lot of people that are way overassessed. So yes, there are going to be pockets that are a beneficiary of this, and there are going to be pockets that are going to be paying more than their fair share. The first question we'll probably answer is which areas. We don't know that yet. We'll have to do the job. At some point, we'll present that. But right now, we don't know who's going to go up, who's going to go down, who's going to stay the same. But that will happen. And all you can do at this point is just make sure that the number that we put on your house is a fair number based on the current market conditions.
You good, Rick?
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Okay. Just to remind everyone that I see some hands being raised in the meeting here. Please put all questions into the Q&A, and we'll answer them all at the end, and we'll work our way through them all. We will not leave until they're all answered. Okay. So in the process, there's 7 steps, and we're just beginning the first step. That is the inspect. And Michael will be taking over from here, and then I'll come back for steps 2 through 7. The explanation of the first step is the longest part of this presentation, and it does go quicker after that. Michael?
Thank you, Greg. So in the very beginning, we will send out a letter of introduction with a brochure about our company. It will be mailed to the address of record for all residential and vacant landowners. So if that address is incorrect in your city system, you may not get that letter. but you can always call and request a copy of that letter from us. The first visit, I already saw several questions regarding this. The first visit is not a scheduled visit. It is an inspector will be walking door to door to knock on each door between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Each inspector, as the assessor mentioned, will be wearing an ID that has been authorized by the police department. Do not allow anyone in your home without this identification. If you, as the assessor had mentioned, if you have any concerns, please either call our company or the Newark City Police Department if you wish to verify who is at your door. Now, once your property is assigned to an inspector, it will be posted on our website, and you will be able to see which inspector is coming to your neighborhood to do those first knocks. Those typically, that gets updated as we go across the city. So you can continually check there every week or so to see if your property has been assigned. But we will be going ward by ward through the city and assigning those properties to the inspectors as we go.
Hey, Michael, one thing, just if they're calling the police department, the non-emergency number. This is not a
Yes.
911 call. So call to the non-emergency number, which we have here, or you can call the city hall as well. But these would be your, if you feel you need to get a quick answer, those are probably good options.
And with that, you can always ask an inspector, would you mind if I call and come back? They are more than happy to come back and make sure that you're comfortable. Next step, while they are at the property walking between properties, they will perform a site inspection. They will look for any outside influences, such as areas that flood. If they're a residential home, they will look at the immediate adjacent properties to see if there's any commercial or industrial properties, such as a gas station, a school, firehouse, something that may impact the location of that property. They will also look at high traffic streets, proximity to noise and congestion to assert if there is any potential changes for that neighborhood for the property value. When they arrive at the home, they will look at the exterior of the residence, examining it in detail, starting with the foundation, the framing, and the exterior siding and roof. The inspector will measure the exterior dimensions of the main structure on the property and all other structures on the property. They will look at the architectural style of the main improvement. So if it is a ranch style home, a colonial style home, a row house, or other, and they will identify that architectural style. Measuring, they create a footprint of the house that is drawn to scale. The house is broken down into sections by the inspector, and they take exterior pictures to verify those sections. For the style of the house, they look at the architectural style. As I mentioned, what type of building is it? Is it a colonial? Is it a commercial building? Is it a two-family building? Is it a ranch or a row house? Architectural style is identified to correctly value the property, and we make sure that is that style uniform in a neighborhood, or is one piece of property an outlier which could potentially affect the value. Here are some examples of different style homes. And we look at the condition. Oh, sorry, if you could just go back.
Yep,
We
I did.
also do consider the condition of the property. So we look at it. Now, when we look at the condition, it is based on the age of that home. So a home that was built in 1920 If it looks like it was maintained but not updated, it would be an average condition for a 1920 home. But if the year built on that home says it is 1920, but it looks like a home that was built in 2024, the condition would be very good or excellent. Also, the opposite is true. If a home was built in the last year or so, so 2024, it would be in average condition for a home that was built in 2024. For the first visit, if no one is home on the first visit, the inspector will leave a notice. The notice will have an appointment time for the return visit. The appointment will typically be in the evening between 5 to 7, a little bit earlier when we are in the winter as it gets dark earlier. There may be some Saturday appointments available. The property owner, if you see the time on the card and you know you are not going to be home at that time, you can call to reschedule and they will make arrangements for a time that works for you. At the first visit, if we are able to conduct an interior inspection, it typically takes about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the size of the property. All levels of the home, including the main floor, upper levels, attics with fixed stairs, not pull-down attics, and basements will be inspected. The inspector will also note the number of rooms, the heat type, air conditioning, number and type of fireplaces, plumbing, and percent of finish in attics and basements. The quality and condition of the kitchen will be examined. It will be determined whether it is in old condition, average condition, or modern condition. And there are several levels of modern condition. An average condition kitchen is one we would expect to be in a home of that year built. An old condition would be one that is in below average for what we expect, needing immediate repairs. And a modern kitchen would be one that has been updated either very recently or in very good condition as compared to the age of that home. We also look at the condition of bathrooms using similar scale. There is old bathrooms, average bathrooms, and modern bathrooms. The quality and condition of the basement and attic areas is also examined. We will look to see what percentage it is finished and whether there is heat or any other additional features in that attic or basement. If you feel uncomfortable with having someone in your home due to an illness or any other reason, there are two ways you can do an interior inspection. The first, most common, is having an inspector physically come inside and enter the premise and do a full walkthrough. But as I mentioned, if you feel uncomfortable, we do offer a contactless interior inspection option using a video conference call, either during that first visit or a mutually convenient scheduled time with our office. If no one is home at the time of the inspection, the inspector will still leave that card and you can call for either type of appointment. If they have left a card and they come back for a second visit and you are still not home, they will make an estimate on the property. If no one is home, they will leave an estimate card. If the information on that card is incorrect, you may call the office and schedule another interior inspection to correct any inaccuracies. If we do have to make an estimate of the property, it is estimated to the highest reasonable value of that property. We cannot change information over the phone. We do need to perform an interior inspection if there is an inaccuracy in that card. The same inspection process as residential properties applies to condominiums, co-ops, and townhome properties. We will also utilize master deeds to confirm size, layout, and model, and any common elements they have. The same review process takes place for these properties as other residential properties. As you can see, here are a couple examples of floor plans, which we can attempt to get through master deeds, but we would still like to do a interior inspection to confirm that the information is correct.
Okay, so that's the process for the inspection. While the inspections are going on, behind the scenes at our office, we're gathering data about the city, about even within the different wards, there are neighborhoods that have different influences on them, style of houses, similar or different ages, size of houses, quality of houses, price ranges, and land use, RETA zoning. So we're compiling that to create a neighborhood map. When we do this, we break it out that neighborhoods are delineated to establish land values, and boundaries are often established by natural barriers like rivers, lakes, hills, etc., political barriers, city limits, zone boundaries, school boundaries, I'm sure the ward boundaries as well, man-made obstacles, main streets, highways, rail lines, major utility right-of-ways, and other similar things. At the same time, we are also doing market analysis. We are looking at the sales that are happening so that we can determine when we get to the end of this process what the market is telling us that the properties are going to be valued at. When we get to the end of this process, this is a 2-year process. We're just beginning it this year. So we'll be doing inspections from this year through next year. At the end of 2026, we will be mailing out proposed value letters. And these are proposed. This is only step 4 of a 7-part process. When you get the letter, it gets sent, as we mentioned, as the same as the introductory letters that we sent to the address of record for your taxes. And it is contains the property assessment that we are proposing for each property. And at that time, if you have questions or concerns, we do set up meetings, which we will be working with the city to make it as convenient for all residents as possible, for in-person, and we also offer by phone. We refer to them as informal hearings, and it's a way to discuss if it's just questions about the process, concerns about your value, and if you have additional information that we may not have known about your property, you can submit it at that point. And if by the time we got to this point, if we haven't gotten an interior inspection and you realize that the value may be higher because we had to estimate it to the highest reasonable level, we still at this point can do inspections and then recalculate the value based on those inspections. On our website, what is added at this point is a bunch of tax information. There's a tax impact statement that breaks down the numbers for the people that really like numbers to crunch on. There is also a list of all the proposed values of all the properties and a list of the sales that we use to come to our values. So we try to be as transparent in this process as possible so you can see where we got our numbers and you can see what is being proposed for anybody in the city. What's useful for this is a lot of people may not be savvy enough to know how to do a real comparable sale, but people usually can look around their block and go, well, that house is a little bit nicer than mine. That one's a little less nice. The values commiserate with how I'm perceiving our house's value. And that's a good way to kind of just ballpark it. And if something seems out of line, that's when you contact us and we have a meeting and we sit down and discuss that.
Just to interject real quick on the website, Greg.
Yes.
I encourage everyone to check in with our website over the next 2 years, because we're constantly making updates on the website. We're constantly adding new information on the website, up-to-date information. It's a 2-year process, so what's on there now certainly will be a lot more what will be on there, a year from now and 2 years from now. So keep checking in on the website for new information.
Thank you, Rick. So this is just a little more detail. We literally will sit down with you with a one-on-one meeting, and we will talk through it. We will go over the record and address any concerns, any questions you have. Generally, they are Monday through Saturday, and depending on the availability of the space, we go into the evenings when we can, and we try to make it as accommodating to as many people as possible. And again, the option is always there for phone, which allows that on your lunch break, if you wanted to take 15 minutes to call us, and we set that up so that you're not having to interrupt your life too much to have this meeting.
So Greg, in summary, there's several ways in which you can communicate with the appraisal company, especially after the preliminary values come out. The first way is the way we've done it for decades, and that's just to schedule a one-on-one in-person meeting. That's what you see in the picture right there. That's from somebody who's coming down to town hall and sits down with us and goes over their information face to face. The second way, which has become much more popular over the last decade, is the information that they can obtain from the website, download from the website, and the utilization of certain interactive tools that we put on the website. The third way they can communicate with us is simply by having a phone call conversation and an exchange of information verbally over the telephone. And finally, another way would be to just have an email back and forth, where we send emails and submit attachments and have that discourse in a back and forth via email. So we're trying to make every option available for somebody to meet with us and get one-on-one personal information before this becomes finalized.
Right. And to that, once we get through this process, any information we obtain in this meeting, if we do need to come out to an inspection, then we review all that data. Everyone we've met with and or have done an inspection for will get a follow-up letter, and that will, when that is sent out, that will be the value that we are submitting to the town and the county. At that point, if the value does change and changes enough that you're satisfied, you don't have to do anything. That just becomes your new value for tax purposes. If it doesn't change or doesn't change enough, you do have the option to do an appeal with the County Board of Taxation. So that's what this is saying here. And then if you want to, the tax appeal, which would be a formal appeal, you do with the County Board of Taxation. There is the option to go to the state level. Just remember, in this process, you're not appealing your taxes, you're appealing your value. And when we're having that conversation, it is the same conversation, because that's the thing we are doing. We are valuing the property. We are not determining the final taxes. Our number of the value is part of the equation, but it is not the sole contributor to that. And if you're doing an appeal, you must prove your value by comparable sales. And when it's a town doing a revaluation, the deadline for filing is May 1st. And any town that is not in the process of a reassessment or revaluation, it's an April 1st. So they give an extra month for towns in doing a reval. So
Greg, I think it's important, before I pass this off to Darren, I think it's important to reiterate, based on the steps that we just went through. Step 4, which is the sending of preliminary values via first class mail. That's only step 4 in the process. There are a lot of other steps, that we just went through, 5, 6, 7, before we get to the point where these numbers are finalized. And that's months of at a time where we put forth our public relation effort to show the transparency of the process, to put all of the information out there, let the public digest it, if they have questions, you come and talk to us about it. If you want a reinspection, we do a reinspection. Do we make changes based on new information? Absolutely. We're trying to get to the right answer. And to that end, we're not just sending a letter saying, here's your value. If you don't like it, just file an appeal at the county tax board. That was step 7. Hopefully, we can exchange enough information and we can answer enough questions and we can show you exactly what we did to where it doesn't get to that point where we're at step 7, where you're satisfied. You might not like the answer. You might not like the high taxes you have to pay, but at least you'll understand what we did, how we did it in comparison to your neighbors and to the rest of the town. You'll have all that information to see that that's what we did. And if we're wrong, we'll give you the information to prove us wrong. And so I just want to assure everyone that when they get that letter, we still have a long way to go before the process is finalized.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, Darren, time for you to talk commercial.
Yes, my name's Darren Raymond. I'm a commercial appraiser. I also manage the commercial inspection staff that will be out doing inspections of the commercial, industrial, and apartment complexes. And the process is very similar to what Michael had explained regarding the residential inspection process. We do come unannounced. And if the first visit, if we aren't able to gain access to the property, they will leave a callback card to call to schedule an inspection if there's properties that are gated or we can't get into an apartment complex to verify information. It'll be the same process that was described previously. So all commercial, industrial, and apartment properties are inspected similar to what we were talking about with residential. They're measured from the exterior. We do need to gain interior access to verify things. For example, for division of space, if it's a mixed use property, if there's retail on the first floor and apartments on the second floor, we need to understand how many units are upstairs. If the retail space only goes 25 feet deep into a 50-foot building, it's hard to tell that information from the outside. So interior access is important for industrial properties. It's also important to pick up things such as mezzanines, cold storage spaces, percentage of office space. And again, we cannot gain that information without getting into the interior of the property. So cooperation, we understand that, commercial properties are more times than not leased to an entity that's occupying the space to run their business. So if property owners could notify the tenants that these inspections will be starting, we will be following the same pattern as described with the residential inspections, the South Ward first, and then moving through there will be ample notification given. And the interior inspection is a crucial part of that process also. Once we gain all the physical information on the property, all commercial industrial properties and apartment complexes are valued using the 3 approaches to value: the cost approach, the sales comparison approach, and the income capitalization approach. The cost approach values a replacement cost of the building that is there and depreciates it and adds a appropriate land value based upon comparable sales of what land is selling for in that particular area. The sales comparison approach looks at the whole bundle of land and building to come up with a valuation for that particular commercial property. And the income capitalization approach is the most common and most utilized approach to valuation when it comes to commercial properties. When we're talking about income, it's not income that is derived from a business per se, it's the rental income that is analyzed. So if the mixed use example that I gave before, we would analyze the rental that the retail space is paying to a landlord or the property owner, and the rental rates that are used for the apartments to come up with potential income for the property. We deduct an allowance for vacancy, expenses, and capitalize that income at an appropriate cap rate as of the valuation date to derive value. All three approaches should be harmonious in the sense that they come to a similar or very close conclusion to value, which would essentially be your assessment. Greg, if you want to move it to the next slide. So what's going to happen is in the spring of this year, probably in the next 2 or 3 months, we will be sending out what's called a income and expense form. So it's requesting income and expense information, again, based upon the rental information and the expenses that are attributed to operating the real estate. It'll be all explained in the mailing, and that mailing comes via certified mail to the address on record. This information is very critical in the process of valuing commercial properties. We understand that there are restrictions on residential rent that can be achieved in the city. If we don't have that information, we need to rely upon market rent, which may be considerably higher. So if cooperation in providing this information is essential in achieving an accurate assessment for the property, any of the properties that are leased in the city. So when you receive that information, you have 45 days of the date of receipt to return to the tax assessor's office. It will come under the tax assessor's letterhead. And if you have any questions regarding that, what needs to be filled out, how to answer the questions that are asked in the forms, again, call the number that is provided in the letter. It'll probably refer you to our company, and we will get somebody who can help you out with that. We'd rather you ask questions than to just ignore it, say it's too difficult to turn it in. We're certainly there to help in turning that information in accurately and having it as complete as possible. Again, it will be very self-explanatory on the directions of what you receive, and cooperation in that is essential in helping us in achieving fair and equitable assessments for commercial and apartment complexes in industrial buildings.
You want to address this, Darren, too, just the properties under construction?
Sure. So the statute of the state of New Jersey states that a property can be taxed as soon as it's ready for its intended use. So sometimes the certificates of occupancy lag a little bit with when the assessor gets it. So we may not have that information prior to the inspection, but if we go to a property and there is a property that is not completed at the time of inspection, I should say, as of the valuation date, it'll be given what's called a partial assessment. We will revisit those properties if we go there, let's say this summer, and it's not complete, knowing that our valuation date is, a year and a half or more down the road. We will return to those properties upon completion of the project to try and see what status the project is in for the assessment. Again, all properties are valued as of the condition on October 1st of the pre-tax year. So if the property isn't finished, you're not going to be assessed as if it was. You will have a partial assessment, and the assessor would finalize that assessment after the project is complete.
And that is basically the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see the questions, and we'll begin going over the Q&A. Okay, let me bring this up. All right, so any questions that come up that aren't relevant, we are just going to skip over because this is only about the revaluation.
Can we start by making sure that everyone is aware of the website? I see that's the common questions, with all 234 residents that are tuning in. That came up a couple of times, so we could start by making sure the numbers that they need to reach out to you in the website as well.
Yes, so I have that is one of the first answered questions on in the answered section. Our website is asinj.com, and you would click on current revaluations. That is in the lower left-hand corner. And then you would click on the city of Newark. And that is how you get to the Newark specific page.
Okay, so there's a question about tax abatements, and I think that might be for something for Frank to answer or the city, because that we don't deal directly with the abatements. Frank, can you see this question? Or I can read it to you?
If you could read it to me.
Okay, so there's a question, why are the new construction property taxes after the abatement 24K, that is unaffordable, paying 2K in taxes per month for a two-family means landlord has to charge more rent. So can you speak to just in general the tax abatements and how that works?
Yes, tax abatements, you have multiple year abatements. For 1 to 4 units, we have 5-year abatements. And what will happen is all properties are going to have a new assessment based on them, but that abatement will be recognized and it will be taken care of at that time. Now, for the long-term abatements, that's a little bit more complicated, and that would have to go to the tax abatement office.
All right. Okay, I think this might be for you as well, Frank. I just want to know why I am still paying an SID bill when it is over in my area, and why I'm paying for it in the whole of Newark is not paying for it.
That's a special improvement district that they're talking about.
Okay,
That's assessed. The businesses in that community do a special improvement district. There's one in the South Ward, the West Ward, Central Business District, and the East Ward. It is really like a business district where they pay into it for improvements to happen in those communities. So it's different from regular assessments. This is something that the council puts on. If a resident is being taxed by the city, they need to talk to their municipal council person.
okay, thank you. Michael, do you want to take this one on the appeal? We did cover it lightly, but if you can go into it in a little more detail, and that also that they can do it any year kind of thing.
Yes, so currently, if you're concerned about appealing your current taxes, you would file an appeal with the County Board of Taxation by April 1st. The information for filing that appeal is on the County Board of Taxation website. If you are going to file an appeal when we are done with the process of doing the full reassessment, you will first receive a letter, and there will be instructions on that to where you can informally have a discussion with someone from our company to potentially resolve the issue there. If you disagree with the decision after that, then you will have the right to file a formal appeal again with the County Board of Taxation. But once we are complete, you will have until May 1st. They give you an extra month during a reassessment year. But right now, until the reassessment is complete, the deadline is April 1st.
Thank you, Michael. So this next question might be for the city. Can Newark Housing Authority adjust the rent raise percentage if a homeowner has a Section 8 tenant and their taxes go up substantially?
Well, that's a rent control question.
Okay, who would they contact about that?
Right, so they will contact rent control. They can call 973. They can call Newark People's Assembly, and I can connect them to the rent control office. So any questions that's related to another department, you're more than welcome to call 973-733-3265, and I'll be happy to connect you to the department you need to reach out to, which is, for this question, would be rent control or either housing.
Thank you. Darren, can you answer this one? I'll read it out. Good evening. For those of who have done improvements to our property upon purchase, but our block is riddled with abandoned homes, how will this affect our taxes? Apologies for asking so soon, but that's a good question, that they've done improvements, but they're in an area that doesn't reflect it in the area. Can you speak to that, Darren?
Yes, there was talk about setting assessments based upon neighborhoods. So we would determine an appropriate neighborhood with the help of the assessor, and values in neighborhoods may vary. If there are properties that are in disrepair, are abandoned, perhaps the land assessments of those properties in that entire neighborhood may be less than a neighboring community. It is captured in the value of the neighborhood. Your improvements will be assessed at what is there. So if they're in average condition and you did some improvements to them, maybe an updated bathroom, that will go back to what Michael was discussing with the conditions observed during the inspection. So we still need to assess the property as of the valuation date. However, the overall values of the property, the land, so to speak, would be accounted for in the overall valuation of the neighborhood trends. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, the next question kind of leads into that as well. And it says, what happened to the initiative to move away from wards and utilize neighborhoods instead? If you can just speak to how the wards are looked at, but then we look at it in smaller portions for breaking out the neighborhood map.
Right. So we broke the city up into wards. I'm not sure what the initiative is that's being referenced, but we broke them up when we were using the term wards, just, the traditional sense of how the city is broken up of a way to start. So there will be different neighborhoods inside each ward. And I do believe going back into the past, revaluations, that was the case also. So there could be, different neighborhoods inside each ward. We will be utilizing neighborhoods. The ward reference was more of just a section of town that we're going to be starting, the city that we're going to be starting in.
Thank you. Michael, can you do this next one? It's a very broad question. I think we kind of touched on it, but maybe you just address it again. The question is, why is it in our best interest?
So this is in the best interest to assure that it is fair and equitable valuation for everyone. When the information gets too far away from fair market value, people may be paying the incorrect amount of taxes. The longer that process takes, the further we get away from that fair market value, and the more potential for inaccuracies can occur with this individual property. So you want to make sure that your property is being fairly assessed at, and what the town has on record for your property is what you are being taxed for, not an extra bathroom or a basement being finished that you don't have finished. You want to make sure that the information is accurate.
Thank you.
And Greg, if I can just interject real quick. The presentation, I saw this come up several times. The presentation is available currently on our website. So if you go there, it does have those examples that Rick was talking about at the beginning of the presentation, on exactly hitting on what Michael just explained, balancing out the equity of distribution of the assessments. So
great, thank you.
it's available there.
There was a question from somebody by the name of Jay asking a very general question. It was one of the earlier questions of who we are and what we do for the process. I think we've answered that. So if Jay, if we haven't, if you could follow up with a more specific question at this point, because I think we covered that in a broad sense. If we didn't answer something in particular, please ask another question and we'll get to that later in the process. I'll take the next two questions. Will we receive notification by mail prior to visit? So the notification is the first notification is you get the mailing, and then after that, we assign the properties to inspectors, and we're going to be going by ward. And we will, as we move from ward to ward, we're starting in the south, then we're going to the east. We will be having meetings in each ward to make it aware. The ward council people will be doing outreach along with the mayor's office so that you'll become aware of that. But once the properties are assigned, we're going to get that ward done and then move on to the next. So it's an unannounced visit, which you've heard through the thing and through the presentation. And if you aren't there, we leave a note. We let you know when we're coming back. And if that isn't good, you can always call for an appointment and let us know that you're not available at that time. And this goes into if you're not available for the day and date, you can reschedule. You can't leave it asks, I will not leave my keys for anybody. We will not ask you to do that. We will not go in. To get an interior entry, we have to be accompanied by an adult, someone 18 or older. So you can have a friend do it for you, a neighbor, a family member, but that person has to be 18 years of age. Okay, let me just check these off. Okay, that one's done. Again, this is a similar question, just asking if it's not a good time, you can call and reschedule. Okay. I'm not sure this one. It says, will the evils be scheduled? I don't know what that means. Okay, we're going to go past that. So this is a lot about the scheduling, so I'll just keep on that train. They're asking how the scheduling works. So again, if you're not there for the first one, or if when they come, it's not a good time, they will leave you a note saying, I will be back at this day and time. If that day and time is not good, you call the office and we schedule for you. And we try to be as accommodating as we can. Generally, we offer morning appointments during the workday and then evening appointments. We offer the virtual appointments that Michael spoke of. And if there's a need, when there's a big enough need for Saturday, if you are only available Saturday, we make a list. When there's enough for that list, then we schedule for Saturday as well. Okay. Okay, the ID was on the presentation. It basically, once we get going, you'll see there, we have posted on our website an ID sheet, which is basically what the ID will show. It'll be their picture, their ID number, and our information as a company. If you have any questions, the first thing to do is go to our website, look at your property, who's supposed to be there, look at the ID sheet, match that up to the inspector. And if you have any questions, you can call our office, you can call the police non-emergency number, and any of your local council person's office, et cetera, for assistance with that.
And real quick, if you feel that if you're feeling that is a fake ID and you don't want to allow someone in your house and it would make you feel more comfortable, you can schedule a virtual inspection, and that you will know is directly with an inspector from our company.
Darren, I'm going to ask you to answer this one. I'll read it. Also, what's the maximum percentage amount a property tax can increase if the amounts are going up from 4K to 17K a year? That's a life-changing amount for a household and could force a person into foreclosure.
Yeah, there is not a threshold on the maximum percentage amount. The example that was given is more than I've seen in any experience. I've been working in revaluations for almost 30 years, and I can't say that I've seen anything like that. However, if there is some instance, maybe the tax list didn't have a building, the tax list had the property as vacant land, and there's in fact a building there that was built without the knowledge. I don't know how this would happen. It's hypothetical, but I understand that could be life-changing. But there is not a threshold to the percentage amount of property tax can increase. Again, we're focused on our job is to provide a fair and equitable assessment of the property. We don't determine the taxes that are on that. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if you receive a letter and the assessment is out of whack from what you think the property value is, we've explained there is certainly a process to discuss that later on in the revaluation program, and we'd be happy to discuss that with you and take in any of your concerns. So if you see something like that example that was given, certainly give us a call.
Their next three questions are all kind of similar. So are we going to put the slideshow up on our website? So currently we have the English slideshow and the Spanish slideshow, and we are working with the East Ward to get a Portuguese one up. Hopefully early this coming week, we'll have a Portuguese. And as language needs are addressed as we go through different wards, we will address that. So each language that needs to be addressed will be there. So those will be on there. And this video, I'm going to try to get it on our website by tomorrow, but probably by early next week, the latest. So that's kind of the next three questions really quick there.
Can I chime in on that?
Yes,
So
please.
also the city of Newark will be posting this on the Facebook, as now we're stream living on Facebook, but also it will be on our channel 78 where the residents can view it at a later date. We're going to keep playing it, and as well as the town hall meetings, we're going to have recordings of the town hall meetings as well. So whoever may need to, view it, we have it available, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on the television, or if somebody needs to see it on Instagram as well. So please share and look for it on all our social media platforms as well.
Thank you. Next question, either Darren or maybe the city may want to answer this. There might be a couple. If the amount of taxes is determined by what local government determines it needs to operate, if local governments determine it needs more money to operate, then how can you say the total amount of taxes raised will not increase?
I think the statement is accurate. However, again, we were just giving examples at the beginning of the presentation. We're concerned with the assessed values that will be set on the properties. How much the city determines needs to be collected for the taxes in order to operate, unfortunately is out of our control.
Okay, thank you. So this is just addressing that these, next question is saying that it's not a question, but a statement that these should be held in the community. And we did address that these will be in each ward, and we will make sure that we reach out in person and everyone. We just wanted to do the first one in this format so we could reach out to as many people and have this to be able to post on our website. So if people can't make the in-community meetings, there is this to always refer to. Okay, let's skip over that one. Okay, so this person, Michael, you want to answer this question? Can you
Sure.
see this one? All right,
Yes.
thank you.
So this person asked, my properties were increased 3 times the amount last year. Is this the same company process as I encountered last year? No, this is a new revaluation process. So our part of the process will not, it takes effect in 2027. So we will be inspecting over the next 2 years, and the values will be for the 2027 tax year. But if you have an issue with your previous assessment, you still have the right to file a formal appeal with the County Board of Taxation up until April 1st. So you can, if you have questions about your current assessment, that's what you would do. But then we will be doing a reassessment process.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, let me mark that one as answered. So this one, Darren, you want to take this one? We are in a seller's market, so naturally selling prices are going to be high right now for the timing of this reevaluation. Is that fair?
So again, this was ordered by the Essex County Board of Taxation. So I don't think the answer of the timing of it is fair. It may be a little bit out of the city's hands. But we do have the benefit of it's essentially a 2-year process. So we will be monitoring trends. Perhaps the market changes. We don't know. We'll have the ability to work with those changes. We're not assessing as of today. We're assessing as of October 1st of next year. So we will have the opportunity to see if those trends are changing, softening a little bit. We do take in, as Rick explained at the beginning, some anomalies. There may be, higher prices than are seen, by general trends, and we may discount those as outliers. So, there are things, all of that is taken into consideration with our market analysis.
Thank you. Michael, you want to take this next one?
Sorry, excuse me.
I'll take it, you're coughing.
Yeah.
So they're asking, how is the tax rate determined for each ward? There only is and ever is one tax rate for the entire city. There's not different tax rates for the wards. The valuing determines the differences between the wards and their value, but the rate is the rate. So the way the rate's figured out is if you take the entire value of the city and what the budget is for every dollar of value, there has to be a contribution to the budget, and the math works itself out, and that's your tax rate. That's the simple answer. It gets a little more complicated, but basically that's the answer. Okay. So they're asking, the first phase, the inspections will probably take about 1.5 years. We're estimating. We have 2 years to finish the whole process. We're hoping to be done with the first, what we refer to as our first knocks, that we've knocked on every door by late spring, early summer of 2026, give or take, depending on weather and a lot of other factors. We're going to do our best, and we're going to make adjustments to get this done as quickly as we can in a timely manner, because we do have a deadline that we do have to meet. Michael,
Greg, I think the next question kind of goes to what that question I had answered before with the example of increasing from 4,000 to 17,000. If again, we're concerned with value. So if you're concerned about the assessment that we propose in our value letter, that's when you would come and talk to us, and we would see, take your thoughts into consideration. Again, we can't determine what the taxes are going to be at that time, but we're happy to go through the entire valuation process with you and discuss where the value of your property came from.
There's a question here about the effect of vacant, abandoned, foreclosed houses. We answered that already. So somebody's saying their taxes went up without anyone assessing it. In any year that is happening, if taxes go up, if it's not a revaluation year, that can redistribute the tax burden. The tax increasing is a function of the budget's going up. Okay, there's a question from Bridgeford asking about what we're looking for. If we haven't answered that question sufficiently, type a specific question to follow up, because we did go over that in the presentation. Okay. So this is a question about indicating who the inspector is going to be. So based on where we are, when we're going, sending letters constantly is expensive. So the idea is we're going to assign as we're going, and there are people that will be working in the town that we haven't hired yet. We're going to be hiring additional staff because this is a large job, and we can't say who it's going to be. And say an inspector decides to quit or gets ill or something, we adjust on the fly to make sure the process keeps moving. So that's why we post the inspector list and the inspector's ID, so that you can always look it up. And if it does change because of conditions beyond our control, that gets changed as we have to change it. Okay. Michael, this one's for you. Will development be assessed, new development?
Yeah, so
Okay, go ahead with the residential side of it, Michael, but I'll talk about, because they're talking about tax abatements, and that may be referencing larger complexes, but go ahead and you could talk about the residential side.
So yeah, so any individual new home or new piece of property that has been constructed will be assessed. Even properties that are under construction and not yet complete will be assessed partially based on how far along they are completed. We do assess every single piece of property in town, including new properties. But Darren, as you were saying about the abatements.
Yes, with as Frank had addressed earlier, there are varying types of abatements that the city provides or can approve. So if the new assessments can affect those abatement calculations, and again, you're going to want to contact us if the proposed assessment that we provide in the value letter is out of range of what you think the property is worth. The abatement is more of a function of an agreement with the city, but we are, aware of it, and we'll be happy to look into it for you at the time that's appropriate for that. It's hard to tell now what the effect will be on that, but overall, the assessment is what we're concerned with, the overall value of the property.
Okay, next question is, are homeowners legally obliged to allow inspectors into their home? You do not. I believe usually in the letter, and I haven't read this letter because I've been trying to get everything coordinated, but if you always have the option to contact us to say you don't want an inspection, you can let us know that you don't even want us on your property. Call the office, you let us know, and we will not come. If we knock your door and you decide you don't want us on the property or in the property or any combination of that, you can let us know that. But if we do not get an interior inspection, we do have to estimate it to the highest reasonable level. And if we're doing the exterior, we have to do the best at determining what's on the property from what we can see. So we're going to be estimating the exterior to an extent as well. The next one asks if it's being recorded, so we answered that. Michael, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So when you, at the end of the process, you will receive a letter to the for the value of your assessment. So they were asking, what if, how do you know if the assessment of the property is correct? Upon evaluation, it's discovered the property has been over evaluated. If you feel that you have been over evaluated, there are informal hearings where you can present evidence to us and make a case to us that you showing us that you feel that you are overvalued. I did see there was also a question further down that says, is this information posted? Yes, we do post the assessments on websites. So that is on our website. So you will be able to see your assessment. Like I said, if you disagree with us after the informal process, you do have the right to do a formal appeal. But there are several mechanisms if you feel you are overvalued to contest that value.
Thank you. Okay. Question on the first visit, are you relying on past data as a starting point? We are. We do have the current records and we are working from those. So we're not starting from scratch. And we, as we're on the property and inspecting it, we make all changes that are relevant. So can a copy of the assessment be obtained by the home land property owner? So I'll answer this for the end of the process. So we don't discuss it until we get to the point of having the value letter sent out. At that point, you can request from our office a copy of your property record card that has the information that we're basing your value on. And that's basically your property's information for the tax office. So that can be obtained at that point. And this is, these are a couple quick ones, so I'll just keep going. A lot of dwellings in Newark are owned by absentee landlords. The expectation is that in the letter, it does advise the landlords to let their tenants know, and that would apply, like Darren said, to commercial properties as well, as opposed to just like 2 or 3 family homes that might be absentee landlords as well. And we do not put any pressure on the tenants to let us in if they're unfamiliar or don't know or don't feel comfortable. We knock, we don't know that they're not the owner until they tell us. And if they tell us and they say we're not comfortable, we go, great. Can you get this to the landlord, to the owner, so that they can either let them know or decide they don't want us in. But we will, if we don't get in, we do assess to the highest reasonable level. A lot of times absentee landlords will catch up with the process when we do the value letters. They see their value and they realize that they didn't get an inspection. And often that's when we coordinate that inspection at that point. And oh, this is, can the city speak to this? They want to know when these visits begin. Are they all here yet still? Cynthia?
Dorothea? Oh, she's got a mute on.
Yeah, I just clicked. Cynthia, can you unmute? Okay, we'll come back to that question because okay, so question about flooding. Darren, can you speak to this one? How will homeowners
Yes.
affected by flooding from Hurricane Ida who receive FEMA and/or state relief be considered in this revaluation?
Yes, we use the most up-to-date flood maps, and I believe they were recently revised. So there is a consideration taken into account for that. It's hard. We have no way of knowing who received FEMA or New Jersey state relief, but if you did, you could certainly notify us of that. You know, and we will definitely take it into consideration when determining the assessment of the property.
Thank you. Michael, can you take the next one that does the higher rating?
So a higher valuation does not necessarily mean you will be paying higher taxes. It is how much your individual property changed in relation to the average change of the properties in that town or city. So if you change less than the average, you may see some decrease. If you change the average, you may stay roughly the same. And if you say change more than the average, you may see some increase. Again, this is all before budgets are passed for that year.
Thank you. Darren, apartment building assessments?
Yes, the question is, how do you assess apartment buildings, et cetera? I may have covered that briefly in the latter part of the presentation, but apartment buildings specifically, the best indication of value is the income approach to valuation. So providing the income and expense information that we request, again, it will happen in the next few months, you'll receive it, is essential in determining the value of those properties because we use actual income, stabilized vacancy and expenses, and a market cap rate to determine the value of those properties. So complying with the income and expense request is essential in that process.
Thank you. Okay, a couple quick answers here. Somebody's asking for hiring. You can call our office at 201-493-8530 because yes, we are hiring. Or you can send an email to asinj.com and just put that you're interested there and it'll be forwarded to our human resources department. So I will click those. Oh, no. Okay. And there's a quick question. We kind of addressed this. So if the homeowner's not home for either inspection, if we can see the entire property out for the outside, we're not going to estimate it because we then have the correct information. If we can't because the gate, the yard's locked off, we are going to make our best estimate of, is the existing information correct, or do we estimate a change based on what we can see from the front? So it's kind of a mixed answer depending on what we can confirm in the visit. And then if the only thing we didn't get to see was the interior, then the only thing that's estimated is the interior.
Yeah, just to clarify, I think what are we saying, like, do we just estimate the exterior or just or the entire property. Yes, we do not just estimate the exterior. We estimate the interior of the property if we did not get inside, but you can always call and arrange for an appointment to correct any inconsistencies in that estimate.
Okay, Darren, can you take this one? That's so why are the taxes in the South Ward higher?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. That seems like a specific question regarding an assessment more than anything. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
That's what I would think. It's just if the
If
values.
I'm capable of answering that question, so.
Frank, could you want to speak to that, or just, is it more just the value? The values are higher and the taxes are reflective of that?
I wouldn't say that they're higher in the South Ward.
Okay, so
It
that's
just depends on your assessment.
Okay.
What you have improved on your property.
okay. Michael, do you want to speak to churches and tax exempt properties?
Yeah, so churches and other tax exempt properties are inspected, and the proper information for those properties is recorded in the town, so that they have an accurate record of those. But any tax exemptions that is beyond what our control, that is through the town, as long as they meet the proper requirements for tax exempt status. But we do inspect all properties, including churches, schools, other properties.
Yeah, just to expand on that a little bit too, every property in the city is valued with the same methodology. So whether or not the property is exempt from taxation, the property is still looked at and valued as if it was taxable. It's just whether or not the mechanism of the taxation department levies tax against it. That's all.
Okay, Michael, can you take the next one about the highest reasonable level?
So highest reasonable level would be that kitchens and bathrooms are, maybe updated. We do apply a standard through the properties. It's not an individual inspector making that call on their own. If your basement, if you have a basement, we may consider that finished as a highest reasonable value. If you have a walk-up attic, and we may consider that finished. If you ever have a question of what that highest reasonable value is, when you receive that card, it will say what we have put for that estimate. And like I said, if there is any inconsistencies with that, you can always call for an inspection to correct those inconsistencies.
Okay, I'm going to take a next couple of these. They're just hopefully quick answers. Our website, somebody's asking about, is ASI, as A as in Appraisal Systems Incorporated, NJ.com. And then you would click on current revaluations. So that's that. Values of other houses, we do make known. We give the entire list at the end of the process at the time that we send the value letters. And yeah, this is basically the same thing. It's at the stage 4. So when we're sharing when you get the letters, we're not done with the process, and we do make all the information known at that point. Nothing, there's a question about anything being grandfathered in. Can you be more specific about what you're asking to be grandfathered in? That was Alan. I'm not quite sure what specifically you're asking. Okay. Somebody asking if we're from Newark. No, we are from New Jersey, and we will be hiring people from Newark to be our crew. That's the goal. We are trying to hire as local as possible. But I personally went to school at Rutgers, Newark, so Newark has been a part of my life since I was in college. So I'm not.
Yeah, and Greg, to expand on that a little bit too, we were the company that did the previous revaluation. A lot of the still the same principles in the company are still here. We do work with the assessor's office, who has more intimate knowledge than we do of certain areas, and we do have a competent understanding of the city.
Thank you. So question is, what happens if the homeowner did not receive their letter? Contact our office, 201-493-8530. Michael, can you take this question?
Okay.
I think we
How
kind
do
of.
we know that people coming to inspect, evaluate aren't from the same neighborhood, where there may be bias-based evaluations. We do not, we look at properties. We are not treating, we look at the values of those neighborhoods based on sale data, not based on any bias based on the neighborhood. So we look at concrete information. We look at any physical thing that would affect that, like being near a highway, near in an area with high traffic. But again, we look at, that's why we look at each neighborhood and evaluate them fairly based on the sale data that has occurred in that neighborhood.
Yeah. So they're asking how long does I think it's how long does this process go before you find out? All the properties will be informed of our proposed value. The earliest would be mid-November 2026. So it's a matter of, at that point, that's when we can start mailing it. If we are done with our analysis and we, just from the analysis to actual printing and mailing will take some time, but that's the time frame that we're into. Okay, that's that. I was told the appeals are starting 110. So for our purposes, there's no data to appeal yet. You're not going to be able to, see our numbers until the end of 2026. At that point, like we said, we have informal hearings that we conduct so that we can maybe hopefully resolve any questions or concerns. And then if you need to, you would have to file a formal appeal before May 1st, 2027. Okay, I think I addressed what year, we just covered that as well. First date, yep. What is tax calculation formula? Darren, is this something, the tax calculation formula, is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
again, that may go to what the question earlier was about how much the city needs to operate. I'm not sure that's really in our scope of work here.
Okay. And just the next one's for you too, hospitals and universities.
Yeah, so all properties are in town are assessed. Specialty use properties such as universities, obviously there's not going to be much sale data to use, so you utilize a cost approach to valuation, a replacement cost new of the building, less depreciation, and you add land value to it. All properties are in town, whether or not they're exempt from taxation or taxable, are treated in the same vein of for our purposes of how they're valued.
Okay, address the next one. If they want a property record card, we provide that at the end of the process, at the time of a letter. Someone's asking about a tax increase they currently have. That would not be something that we can address. That's something part of the process, and our adjusted values based on our inspections will not take place till the budget year 2027. So anything in the interim would be to the city tax office. Churches, just like hospitals, same thing, they will be assessed, but they are tax exempt. Property that is newly built within 5 years, are they appraised? All properties in the town are appraised. No matter how recently or new, if the property was recently purchased or built, everything gets appraised. That's just everything. We do have diversity in our company. It's just these are the folks that are available for tonight's presentation. How does the investor over creating new spaces play a role? Darren, can you? I'm not trying to understand this question. How do investors overpricing of properties? Is that something?
I'm not sure what it means, but again, we're maybe I don't want to read into the question, but new luxury spaces are valued as of October 1st of what the value would be for that time frame. So again, we utilize various approaches to value for commercial property, so sales comparison and income approaches would come into play.
Gotcha. Okay, I think we spoke to this. The revaluation final numbers will be for the tax year 2027. So that's when that will affect you. The recording will be on our website, which I addressed earlier. Will there be another Zoom? There is not one currently planned, but I would not be surprised that we do more Zooms. We will discuss that with the mayor's office. I don't have an answer for that right now, but I imagine we will be doing more Zooms. What about
I could
commercial?
take that
properties?
one,
Yeah,
Greg.
thank you.
The question is, what about commercial property that received tax waiver to build? Are they also being assessed? Yes, all properties, if they're tax abated, if they receive a waiver, they're being treated as if they're valued at market value as of October 1st. And the agreement that they have with the town will kick into place after that based upon the fair market value of the property.
Okay, I'll answer this one. Can neighborhoods participate in helping in this process? The best way to help is pass along the information you've seen here tonight. We are working with the mayor's office and the council people in each ward to get the word out and interact and make people feel as comfortable as possible in this process to allow us into specifically more into their homes, which is usually a more personal place to go into. So the best thing to do is reach out to the mayor's office or the council for your ward. Okay. When doing comps, does the assessment consider vacant properties?
Greg, real quick, since
Yes.
Sarathina was trying to, she got
Oh.
kicked off, so if you can add her as a panelist
Oh,
again.
okay, thank you. Yep, give me a second here.
So the question was, when doing comps, does the assessment consider vacant property? So when we're selecting comparables, we're looking for comparables that are similar to your situation. So if the question is vacant properties on either side, again, that goes to a neighborhood question. We would be looking in the neighborhood for similar situations to use as comparables.
Okay. Okay, let's do this one. If a townhouse was slated as a 3-bedroom when it is actually a 2-bedroom, can that be discussed with the inspector? I'm kind of want to know what you mean by discuss. When we get into a property, we're just going to document whatever's there. We have a standard of what a bedroom is. If someone put a bed in their living room and are using it as a bedroom, it's not a bedroom. You can use that room however you see. How we qualify it is that it's a room with a closet and a door for privacy. That's a bedroom. I hope that answers that. Okay, so they're asking about meetings in each ward, which we are going to be doing. What is the effective date for?
If I could chime in.
Yes, please.
So, I don't know what happened, but I'm back. So
Thank
yes, we are gonna do meetings in each ward. Some wards will have, well, no, I'm not gonna say some wards, but it will have 2 or more in each ward. We want to make sure that the residents are fully aware of this. We want to over communicate. We want to make sure you understand. And if it goes to that where we can do another webinar, then I'm open for it. I want to make sure everybody is aware of the process, making sure they're aware of who's coming to their house. Any follow-up questions, we will. So again, Newark People's Assembly from the mayor's office of the mayor, we will be spearheading the meetings, working with the council members in each ward, making sure that everyone is there. So we're going to have 2 in-person meetings for each ward, and we can circle back to do a webinar if need be. Again, it's going to be on our social media platforms. This is being recorded on Facebook Live, and we're also going to show it on Channel 78, which it'll keep running. It'll run until we're finished the process. So yep, we will make sure everybody's fully aware of the process.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, you can call 973-733-3265, Newark People's Assembly. If you want to email me at newarkpeoplesassembly@ci.newark.nj.us, you're more than welcome to, and I can further assist you and always connect you with the ASI, or if it's a question for Frank or any questions that needs to go to a different department, I'll make sure they're fully aware of it to assist you through this process.
Yeah. And Cynthia, there was a
Yeah.
question before about when we're going to be starting.
So yes, so we're gonna start The first meeting for the Southwood in person is scheduled for the 13th. So we'll start as soon as the very next day, the 14th. If need be, we'll start on that Monday because I believe that falls on a Friday. So yep, we will make sure everybody's aware. We'll be posting it on all social media platforms to say, hey, ASI is out in the community. You can start expecting, visits to your home.
Okay, next couple questions we answered. So the effective date for the change is tax year 2027. Abatements we discussed already. So what steps are being taken to ensure that people are not priced out of their property and income may not reflect the ability to pay higher taxes? Again, our purpose here is to put a value on the property, and there is an inflationary adjustment to the tax rate. We're not trying to force anyone out. Our job is to just put a correct value on the property. Cynthia, is there anything more you would speak to that?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I'm sorry.
What steps are being taken to ensure that people are not priced out of their property? Income may not reflect the ability to pay higher taxes. I said basically our job is to do the valuing on the property, and that for when the values go up proportionally, there is an adjustment to the tax rate. But to taxes specifically, that's outside of our realm. So I wasn't sure if you had.
I think that would be more so a question that Frank can lead on.
Okay.
Yeah, depends how much the city needs and what your assessment is and what it's going to be. We're early in the process. We haven't even started to do inspections yet. So when you get the letter with the value, at that time, if you feel that your assessment is too high, you can contact the ASI and go over what your assessment is.
Okay, thank you, Frank. What role do home sales play in the appraisal process, Michael?
So we do look at all the recent sales up until October 1st. It will be 2026. That will be the valuation date of where we set the values for each property. But yes, we do look at recent sales to establish what values are in each neighborhood and each type and style of property.
Thank you. Darren, can you take this question?
Sure. The question is, are these appraisals handled the same way, and do they use the same process as appraisals that are done by a bank when a home is purchased? Not necessarily the same. I mean, we're all trying to get to market value, presumably with the bank appraisal. We know that that's our job. The differences are the inspection process. The state of New Jersey requires us to measure properties from the exterior, and that goes to what Greg had answered or Michael had answered before, that you do not necessarily have to allow us into the home. So we can't measure your home from the inside if we get in, and your neighbor's home from the outside if they don't allow us in. So the measurement techniques are a little bit different, but ultimately to determine market value is the ultimate goal.
Michael, can you take the next one?
Yeah, are cosmetic changes factored into the way units are assessed? Things like a fresh coat of paint? No, we're not looking at. We're looking at the overall structure and but we are looking at the condition of the property. So if there have been additions made to new cabinets versus old cabinets, yes, that would be something that would looked into. A new tile in a bathroom, yes, but a fresh coat of paint and a basic cosmetic adjustment, no, that is not what we're focusing on. We're talking about capital improvements of the house.
Thank you. Darren, can you take this one about illegal businesses, crack houses, etc.?
Yeah, illegal bit. So we need to evaluate the ultimately what a property would sell for. So if there's an illegal business running there, the inspector can hopefully relay the information to us. And again, it's just commercial properties are valued on 3 approaches, so we'll take all those into consideration. The condition of the property is a big part of that. So that's certainly going to be taken into consideration too.
So there's a question about the appeals process for our revaluation. It's not until fiscal year 2027. In any year, a property owner can appeal their value of their property with the County Board of Taxation. Okay, Darren, can you take this one?
Which one are you at? I see
Is
two there.
there a cap? Sorry, oh, I skipped down here. I'm sorry. Go to this one. Is
No,
there a
that's
cap
okay.
on how much taxes can be increased? I'll take the other one above. I scrolled down. Sorry.
Sure, no problem. I believe we discussed that before, but you know, this is a little different process than your typical, you know, the legislation of how much your tax rate can increase. We're determining a market value for the property for your assessment, and what the tax rate ends up being at the end of the process is out of our hands. But you know, to answer it bluntly, there is not a cap on that.
Thank you. All right, I'll take this one. Is there anything on our website about neighborhoods that are likely to be higher in value or lower in value? We have no idea. It's purely based on the market, and we're going to be looking at that sales as part of this process, and the market will determine who's going up, who's going down. It's not for us to determine who's going up. The market tells us that. We just analyze the data. Okay, Michael, can you take this one? I think we kind of, this is if you don't get in, we did discuss this one already. So we have to estimate it to the highest reasonable level. This one, would it be possible to see a few examples of the assessment on, for what will affect you? We have to see what the sales are. We have no idea what 2-bedroom apartments or 3-bedroom, you know, multifamily houses versus single families. The market will dictate those values.
So can I just add in that we have 10 more minutes left, so it will take 3 more questions, and then, you know, the residents could feel more than welcome to email you at your website. If you could just read it over again, so they'll know any residents who didn't get a chance to ask a question. Again, as I repeat, we want to over communicate for people to understand the process. So we will have town hall meetings. They can answer their questions at town hall meetings as well.
Great. So the email address that you would send it to is newark@asinj.com. And then we'll distribute those out to the person that can give you the best answer. And we will answer 3 more questions. So the next question, Michael, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, I can take, it's actually the next 2 really quickly.
All right, perfect.
Our inspectors are all trained with our company policies, and there are multiple levels of review. So if there is something that they are unsure of, they have supervisors and then project managers to discuss with, and it is reviewed at multiple levels. The next was, I don't feel comfortable with someone taking pictures on the inside of my home. We do not take pictures on the inside of homes. We only take pictures of the exterior of the home in those areas and any exterior buildings. But we do not take pictures on the inside. If you wanted to submit a picture to prove a certain condition of a property, you do have the right to do that, but an inspector will not do that on their own. They only take pictures on the exterior.
Darren, there's the first part of the question that Michael just answered. Is this type of assessment done in other areas of New Jersey? Can you just speak to that briefly?
Yes, revaluations are done frequently in the state. They're either ordered by the County Board of Taxation or the state of New Jersey, or they're done voluntarily. It's a very common practice, and it again, at the beginning of the presentation, which is available at our website, it shows reasons for that. There's a large disparity between what the current assessments are and what properties are selling for. So that is one of the criteria of why the Essex County Board of Taxation required the city to do this.
Okay, and Darren, if you can take the next one, and that'll be our last one for tonight. And then again, you can email us at newark@asinj.com, and we will work our way through depending the response time will depend on how many questions we get.
Is it the one
Per real estate
regarding,
agent.
okay, per real estate agent, property taxes may be lower in areas where there are more businesses. If true, will reassessments take into consideration businesses in my neighborhood? I'm not sure if you're a residential property owner or commercial property owner. I'm not sure what real estate agent told you that, but it seems like a pretty general comment. If you are a residential property owner and there is an influence of commercial businesses that are nearby, in your opinion, detracting from value, that will pan itself out in the market data. So it will be taken into consideration. I believe Michael touched on that. It's picked information that, you know, is either picked up by the project manager or the inspector. If there's, let's say, a automobile service repair garage down the street from your home and there's cars parked along the road, you would certainly want to point that out to the inspector so he can relay the information to the person who's going to be doing the valuation. And we can take that into consideration, that the property would be hypothetically worth less than a property that didn't have that influence.
I think also there might be, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I do have one thing because this just triggered from what Darren said. One additional thing with that to keep in mind is the person at your house is an inspector. They are just there to take down the data and take down notes about the property. The person doing the valuation will be a licensed appraiser with our company who is then looking at that data and determining value. So just to make that clear.
And then I think I'm reading a little into this question as well. And maybe they, Darren, are talking about an influx of business into a community affecting the overall taxes to the broader tax base. So if, you know, if it were a smaller town and they had a large business come in, how would that affect the taxes for everybody else that were existing there? That may be, that's kind of how I'm reading it a little bit too, I think.
Okay, I guess I'm not really following, but so if I'm not sure, again, I'd rather not speculate on what this real estate agent told the person.
Okay.
I'm not following the line of thought with that, but
Okay.
So again, I just want to thank you all. It's about that time. I appreciate the ASI team as well as Frank and Mayor Baraka for giving us this platform to address the concerns of the community. Again, we will do in-person meetings. So if you need more hands-on, please feel free to join the the town hall meetings. I will be posting them and sharing them on all social media platforms. Again, we're going to start with the South Ward. The date as announced is February 13. We will get out the flyers as soon as possible. Then once we get finished, we'll move over to the East Ward. And after that, we'll transition to all the different wards. If you have any questions, please feel free to email ASI all your questions, as well as if you need to reach out to the city, you can reach out to Newark People's Assembly, as well as your council member to, you know, have any questions. We want to make sure we're abating all information that needs to be out. And thank everyone for everyone jumping on. Also, please, if you could share. There might be someone who missed it, but please share it to your neighbors as well as we're going to be sharing it on our end. So thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
thank you.